Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Okay. So we are on verse 7 of chapter 6. And in verse 6 of chapter 6, we did last time, the self is a friend of the self for him who has conquered himself by the self. But to the unconquered self, the self stands in the position of an enemy like an external foe. That's what we did in detail. And basically it's like our mind, body, senses, intellect, all of them can turn against us if we don't have it under control. That was the bottom line. And then it becomes our enemy. But the one who has control over these things, the mind and the whole, your personality becomes your friend. Okay, and since Bharat is here, he wanted a question. And Chinmayananji already put the question here. And I don't know, he may not have the book, so I'm going to read the question to him. That is going to be answered in this verse 7. And the question is, what exactly is the fulfillment of such a state in yoga is explained now. So now they are talking about, they said you control your personality at all levels. So what will be the result if you control it? So that's what it is. I'm going to chant the verse. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha mana pamanayoho. Jitatmana is of the self-controlled. Prashantasya, of the peaceful. So Hindi mein word hai shant. And then there is a word prashant, and means prakrashena shant, they say it in Sanskrit, means very special kind of shant, very highly shant, you can say. Paramatma, the Supreme Self. Samahitaha, यहाँ पर लिखा है balanced, but उसका like थोड़ा deeper meaning है, become absorbed in it. That also can be another meaning. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu, in heat and cold, pleasure and pain. So these are the dualities that we face every day in our life. Body level heat and cold, and mind level pleasure and pain. Tatha is also mana pamanayoho, in honor and dishonor. So that's an intellect level. And Swamiji in his commentary is going to explain in more detail all of these things. And, different Swamis take a slightly different approach, but both are very, very useful. So I'm going to combine that. Okay. So what he's saying over here, first the word jitatmanaha. This is the one who has conquered the mind. Jisne man ko jeet liya hai, jitatmanaha. Because we learned that, how to become that yoga rude. So that's what he's talking about. And the other way you can say is that we have made friendship with our mind, because in the previous verse we're talking about friend and foe. And the simple language we can say, whose mind is under his control. So here, because it's a subtle subject, when they say self over here, you can say mind, but that's not the only one they're talking about. That will include senses, body, intellect, all of them together is in your control. And then we have to remind ourselves that these are our equipments that we have. This is not me. These are my equipments. And, the Dilli Wale Swami, he gave a very good analogy. He said it's, for example, your cell phone. Is your cell phone under your control? Can you switch it off when you want to? That's what it is, or keep it away. And one drishtant will tell you that whether it is under control or not. I love that drishtant that he gave. So he gave the drishtant that one Mahatma was going with a chela, his disciple, and they saw a man going with a cow, and the cow was tied with a rope, and he was holding the rope. So the Mahatma told his disciple, "Are you seeing that man with the cow?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Who is bound over there?" He asked him. So the first impression immediately will say the cow is bound, because the cow has a rope around it, right? But here is a Vedantic concept. Huh? So he said, that Mahatma told his chela, what if you untie release the cow, basically? What is going to happen? So he said the cow will go where it wants to, and what will the man do? He will follow the cow. So you think man is bound to the cow. Cow is not. So that's what it is. And we think that we own the cell phone, but the cell phone is owning us, actually. And I think that I was discussing with our son, because one time he showed me a movie where these computers have taken over. You guys must have seen some sci-fi movie, machines have taken over. So he said, "Oh my God, it sounds so horrible." So I said, if you really think about it, it is true right now. We are slave to our machines, our computer, all the equipment that we have, One time the electricity goes in the house and you will know that, you just say, "Oh, I can't do anything. I can't even open my garage door," or whatever. So we are the slaves. So that's how the Mahatmas look at it. And so that was very interesting. So one who has conquered the mind means, so what does it mean? We kind of discussed it, but we'll just repeat it so that it sinks into our mind more. It means we can switch it off at will. Say, if you ask it to say quiet, it should say quiet. And we know it does not. In the middle of the night, the mind will start churning. But here they're talking about that with those practices, you should be able to achieve that slowly with abhyas and all that. And so also here, just to remind again, that you cannot do it by force, but by understanding and wisdom, he's talking about. Because by force, it's just like a sleep. If we are not getting the sleep and you say, I want to sleep, it just doesn't come. So we have to just relax our mind, and then so that's how it is. The force is not going to work. Okay. And then, so what is the sign that the mind is under control? So that is described by the next word, because first word in the verse was jitatmanaha. So we just discussed that. Prashanta. So that is the sign that your mind is under your control, when it becomes prashant, means it becomes calm. And so we already discussed that if you do it just by suppressing your agitations and all that, then it will erupt like a volcano. So what you have to do with your mind, that it has to be, firstly, understand what mind is, educate it and train it. And then it will learn to become still. And what basically is a trained mind? It works only if we tell them to do some action, and otherwise it remains still. And he gave another, Diliwale Swami, he gave another very good drishtant. He said it's like the doctor's stethoscope. He hangs it around his neck and walks around everywhere, and then when he wants to use it, then he uses it. So that's how the mind should be, So if it asks to keep it quiet, then it becomes shant. No agitation, no desire, no unresolved and unsolved eruptions and issues and all that. And then he was telling you what happens in our mind, and you would see how, if you can connect to this. I thought it was a very good point he brought. He said we carry our past things, unresolved issues. Sometimes when we have argument with somebody, we will bring all the old stuff, from the past. So he calls it all these unresolved things. That means, so he gave the analogy that as though we have not digested our experiences. It really appealed to me the way he was explaining that these are like undigested experiences. So when we go through life, we will have good and bad. both experiences we have. But now that we are studying Bhagavad Gita, with good and proper wisdom, you can learn to digest it, no matter what it is. बोलते ना किसी किसी का डाइजेशन बड़ा स्ट्रांग होता है, उसको कुछ भी खिला दो, सब कुछ सह लेता है, सो ऐसा होना चाहिए माइंड का डाइजेशन. आई थॉट दैट वाज अ ब्यूटीफुल एनालॉजी. So he's saying that suppose if the mind is not free and it has all these undigested matters in it, and it's not clean and pure, because indigestion means what? Not clean and pure. So that's when it's not going to be able to. But if it becomes clear of all this, then only it will become absolutely still. So by force you cannot make it like that. And he's saying that now the next couple of words in there, Paramatma Samahitaha. So, the two different Swamis have taken slightly different approach, but both are very valuable. So, Dillivale Swami said that Bhagwan, such a person, Lord Krishna says, he become Paramatma Samahitaha means he recognizes Paramatma as his own self. जिसका मन पूरी तरह से शांत हो गया है. And he was just saying that, we have already learned that the final experience is that you recognize that Atma within, and then you realize the same Atma is Paramatma only, So that's the journey. So it cannot be done. This experience cannot happen until our mind become prashant, according to this verse. And then he also scientifically analyzed it, that when there are thoughts in our mind, something is disturbing or agitation, our mind goes there in those thoughts, right? So, and the example he gave, or the drishtant he gave, suppose if I go in a room and the TV is on, मेरा ध्यान ऑटोमेटिकली वहाँ चला जाएगा. अगर टीवी ऑफ होएगा तो मेरा ध्यान नहीं जाएगा वहाँ पे. Okay? So when our mind is churning, that's where it gets stuck with. And it's not going to be able to move forward to recognize the self. And he's saying that when mind is thinking, there's another problem happens. All kind of emotions are coming. Remember, if we think something, some incident happened in the past and it's not such a good thing, and so I start thinking about it. I may be very happy, but all of a sudden I start feeling sad, So these are the disturbance, and the attention will go there. Then I get stuck and I start reliving that thing again, and it all happens to all of us. So that's what he's talking about. So he's saying, and another very beautiful example he gave to understand this concept. He's saying that what is a sign of a healthy body? Healthy body is when my attention doesn't go to my body. Think about it. It's so true. He's saying that what does a headache mean? My awareness go to my head. If my awareness is in my head is healthy. Or suppose stomach ache. When I have a stomach ache, the whole time your mind is in the stomach only. You might tell 5 different people, I have a stomach ache, and then you say, I can't do this, I can't do that, whatever. The whole mind is constantly just stuck there. So he's saying that anything which is supposed to be healthy, in other words, you can translate it like it does not demand attention. Healthy things don't demand attention. So he's saying the same way, our mind, if our mind is prashant, that means it is not demanding our attention. And that's when we will be able to put our attention on the substratum or our own self and recognize this self. So that is a journey, to make our mind prashant. And then recognize yourself as an Atma, and then we have learned that this Atma is Paramatma. And if you hear about people who experience this Atma Paramatma ki ekta, you will see that they suddenly felt oneness with the universe. It's like that Sadhguru talked about it, sitting on the Chamundi hill, and then in Autobiography of Yogi, he very clearly he kind of express how he felt with the whole oneness with the universe. So that's what the goal is. And then again, things that we have learned in the past, just to review it, that Atma over here means that self which is a witness of everything, witness of mind, body, intellect, and all that. That's who they are talking about. And also the witness of our waking, dream, and sleep state. Whoever was there at the Mandukya Upanishad, we did it in absolute detail. And amazingly enough, the same exact verses come in Kathopanishad right now about that, how, this Atma or Paramatma, that is in all three states. That's one is giving it power to, or it's a witness. You can look at it both ways. So the main goal in over here of the meditation that they are talking about, Krishna Bhagavan is talking about it, because here now he's talking about the goal. Then he's going to tell how to actually do it, some tips on how to do it. The self in me is the self in all. That's the goal in this whole thing. And he's saying that one who, there is another word over here, Paramatma, right? So one who understands that this self in all as the self in me, that person has understood about Paramatma. That's why it's called Paramatma. And then he has given this same drishtant before, but in Vedanta we repeat a lot so that it sinks into us. So over here is very relevant. There's a pot and there is a space in it. Now the space in the pot suddenly start thinking, I'm the pot. Okay? And that's all the trouble starts. Then it's, I'm like this, and comparison, this, that. So he's saying that space is educated now. Usko na Geeta padhai gayi, samjho. Just the start, huh? And then now it goes on a spiritual journey and recognizes, I'm not the pot, I'm the space in the pot. And then suddenly realizes, this space is in everywhere, outside, inside, and everyone is the same space. So then he was saying that the whole thing, you can call it param space. If anybody has a confusion about Atma, Paramatma, this is a very good analogy that you can cut the space. It just looks like as though it's cut, but it's not cut. Because if I'm sitting in this room and I'm calling it this room space, I can call it for convenience sake and utility purpose, but I've not been able to cut this space. If the walls come down, there's one space only. So like that, Atma Paramatma connection. So that's the main thing that everybody needs to just remember that. So he's basically saying that the person who has quietened the mind completely, in a sense, in meditation. It's not that this person's mind, when he needs to use it outside world, he will, like an instrument. But when the instrument is under his control and he's able to make it prashant, that's when you will recognize it. Otherwise, you are not going to. Then you will only know intellectually. The experience will not happen. And then the next part over here is he's talking about the duality. You don't get affected by the duality. Somebody's I don't know who's, maybe Asha ji. I have to mute. And just check your mute. I'm not sure whose house it's coming from. Okay, so these three concepts are going to come again and again in Bhagavad Gita till the end. So I'll just go over it and then you will see it will be repeated many times. So we live in the world of, when it's a physical world, the Prakriti is duality, they call it, right? Duality is always going to be there in Prakriti. And the best example of duality is, if you take a magnet, it has north and south, right? Or two poles of the earth. Suppose if you break the magnet, again those two poles will come. So you cannot get away from it. Or it's a coin, they're going to have two sides to it. So same way, we live in duality, but how does it affect us? Like at the body level, Krishna Bhagavan calls it heat and cold. So cold and heat always experienced at the body level. Because man ko thand nahi lagti hai. Body ko lagti hai thand. Man experiences, but actually it is happening in the body. And then sukh aur dukh. Sukh aur dukh mind level pe hota hai. जो जब हम लोग mind बोलेंगे तो when you divide it into mind and intellect, two different things. Mind is a lower part of the, you can say. I don't want to call it inferior or anything, but जहाँ पर emotions वगैरह होते हैं, you know. So सुख और दुख वहाँ पर होता है. And then intellect level पे मान और अपमान कहा गया है. कृष्ण भगवान ने duality कही है, मान और अपमान. इसमें इन तीनों में सब कुछ आ जाता है. The whole world of dualities come. So honor and dishonor means, you know, oh, किसी ने मेरा insult कर दिया, how dare he say that, all that, my ego is rising and all that. That is man and apman, and that happens at the intellectual level, you know. Or like I think that somewhere I heard this in the morning. It was Sadhguru. Maybe it is an our chain or some other one, but I don't know. So many different groups are there. So somebody asked that Sadhguru, you know, why should we wait in life? So he's saying wait is also like a ego thing only. जितना ज़्यादा एजुकेटेड आदमी होएगा ना वो बहुत बोलेगा ओ व्हाई शुड आई वेट फॉर एनीथिंग, गुस्सा आ जाएगा उसको. और बोला किसी बेचारे सीधे साधे विलेजर को लेके आओ तुम, वो पूरा दिन भी बैठा रहेगा. Because he understands that, okay, means, you know, and then he said, whoever's ego is rising, you know, I can't wait. He's saying, look at your existence in this world, in this universe. You are like a speck. So it's better that you learn to wait. I thought that was a very important thing that he said, you know. So that's what it is that duality is talking about. But once whose man has become prashant, or whose whole personality has become prashant, he can control his mind. That person, he lives in that Paramatma state. You know, we did the Lakshan of Sthita Prajna, right? From chapter 2. Whoever was here when we did chapter 2. How do I say? Characteristic of the man of wisdom. So this man of wisdom, 24/7, he lives with the awareness of that Paramatma. Paramatma में वो duality नहीं होती है. Right? इसके लिए उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा कि वो heat and cold and it doesn't mean that he doesn't feel it. That's a very important thing, because it's like, oh, those Mahatmas, you know, they don't even feel the cold. Yeah, maybe with some yogic practices they can do it. That's a different story. But they also feel, but they don't come under its sway. It does not affect them. That's why, I mean, their mind is so strong that it doesnn't matter. Unko koi khana de ya nahi de, they are okay with everything. You know, so because he is in that mode, that's why it doesn't affect him. This all three things. You know, for us, we are not there yet. We don't have the experience, but we can start with small things. Like what Krishna Bhagavan said, don't come under its sway. That's how we can start, you know, practically speaking. And so the main point over here is that such a person, he is aware of that self in all situations. He does not forget that. And so he's saying that winter ho ya summer ho, happiness ho ya unhappiness, so that person is firmly established in that knowledge. And that is that great state of realization is attained by what kind of people? The one who can make their mind prashant. And the other word that everybody is aware of in this class is yoga rood. That we did, you know, I think it was the third verse or something. That what is a yoga rood? One who has become just like riding a horse and controlling it, his mind is under his control. So the person who is yoga rood and who continues to make his mind quiet and prashant, that person, his attention will be on the self all the time. That's what the main point of this verse is. So before we read Swamiji's commentary, does anybody have any question, comment, or want to add anything? Okay. Either I did a great job or you guys are just not in the mood to talk. One of the two.
You did a great job. So
No, I was not fishing for compliments, but yes.
But well deserved.
Okay, so that's great. Any
हनुमान
हाँ बोलिए.
या उस पे ऐसे भी और भी एक बताते हैं ना भाई, जब भी पुलिस वाला चोर को पकड़ता है तो चोर बंदेला नहीं होता है, पुलिस वाला बंदेला होता है उसके साथ.
Very good.
चोर नहीं भाग जावे.
Very good example.
Like that, हम लोग बंद गए हैं हर चीज से.
Yeah, I like that example too. Yeah. Okay. Who is a volunteer to read? Sushil ji? Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can read.
Sure.
Okay. The supreme self of him who is self-controlled and peaceful is balanced in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, as also in honor and dishonor. When a seeker has come in his inner life to the state explained as Yoga Ruda, and when in that state of equipoise, the mind is held steadfast in contemplation over the Supreme. The self-controlled one in all serenity is capable of maintaining his consistency of meditation in all circumstances, favorable and adverse at all levels of his personality. In the second line of the stanza, it is clearly indicated that no excuse in the world is sufficiently strong to justify a seeker's inability to continue keeping the awareness of eternal nature in himself.
So you saw that what he's saying, that of course in the early stages of trying this, we may not be successful, but if somebody is making an excuse, then we know that Krishna Bhagavan is saying that in all circumstances, and that is going to happen when you can turn your mind on and off at will. That much control. It's like a very powerful state to be in. And so just that's the main thing over here. And then other thing, yes, I wanted to talk about that we have discussed in the class many times, that the saints and sages who are well established, or the men of steady wisdom, he's in meditation 24/7. Now you know why. Because he maintains that awareness of that self in all circumstances. And that's what Lord Krishna was telling Arjun to do. Even fight the war, but keep the mind on Bhagwan, he's saying. And then the 5 things of the Karma Yoga, Ishwar Arpan. So even that practice is there, that, whatever you do in life, you dedicate it to God. So all those things tie up with each other. That's why I'm bringing different aspects of it. Go ahead.
3 pairs of opposites are indicated here as heat and cold, joy and sorrow, honor and dishonor. In enumerations of these 3 pairs of conditions, Krishna is exhausting through the mention of the types all the possible threats that an individual may receive from the outer world against his equipoise and tranquility.
So see how in the previous paragraph, Swami Chinmayananda said that in the world, no circumstance is sufficiently strong to justify the seeker's inability to continue keeping the awareness. And now he's telling that the disturbance can only come from 3 different places: body, mind, and intellect. And so he's just told you about, and symbolically speaking, heat and cold is at body level, joy and sorrow at mind level, honor, dishonor at mind level.
Heat and cold, these are stimuli that are felt and experienced by the body at the body level, whether in heat or in cold. Thoughts, whether in heat or cold, thoughts we know do not expand or shrink, and the ideas cannot shiver or perspire. All these reactions can be only in the body, and therefore, Krishna is indicating by this pair all the vicissitudes that may visit the body, such as health and disease, youth and old age, and so on.
So now you saw that they just use it heat and cold, but that includes anything that can happen to the body. That's why, these are the other things that we know happen to the body: health and disease, youth and old age, and all that. We don't have to worry about youth in this group. We are already on the second one. Okay.
Pleasure and pain. By the second pair of opposites, the Lord is symbolically indicating all the destinies suffered at the mental zone. Pleasure and pain are experienced not by the body, but always by the mind. It includes all the tyrannies of our different emotions, which might threaten the mental arena at one time or other in man's life. Hatred and love, affection and jealousy, kindness and cruelty, 1,000 varieties of emotions may storm the within, but none of them is an excuse, according to Krishna, for the diligent and the sincere to lose hold of himself from the steadfastness in his contemplation.
So Swamiji explained very well that even though he's just talking about pleasure and pain, but where all these other emotions, 1,000 different varieties that we experience, all of that come under that. But this person who knows how to become prashant, he's not going to get affected by any of those. He knows how to just digest it properly. Let's put it this way, like the other Swamiji explained.
Honor and dishonor. The last pair of opposites show how no threat of any storm in the intellectual zone is a sufficient clear to condone or sympathize with an individual who has fallen away from the state of perfection. Honor and dishonor are evaluated upon and reacted with only by the intellect.
So we discussed that those kind of things are at or intellectual level, all the different ideas also. People get so stuck on their own ideas. They think that my way or the highway. Then they get all upset and all that. All of those come under that actually.
Thus, by these three representative pairs of opposites from the three worlds of the body, the mind, and the intellect, Krishna is trying to exhaust all possibilities of obstacles in a man's life. Then he adds that in all such conditions, the Supreme Self is to be the object of constant realization for one who is perfectly self-controlled and serene. He ever remains unruffled in all circumstances, favorable or unfavorable, in all environments, good or bad, in all company, wise or foolish.
Seems like a dream state, right? And amazing thing is, Arjun asked the same exact question to Krishna Bhagwan. ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं, तो वो कैसे होते हैं? Because it's like we just have such a hard time. I mean, if somebody has been with a great soul, you see the glimpse of all these things, that how they stay totally calm. And it's not like their things don't go into their mind, but there is one verse, just to recap some of the things that we did in chapter 2, that their mind is compared like an ocean. Ocean में तुम कुछ भी डाल दो, वो मर्यादा नहीं छोड़ेगा. But a small puddle of water, you pour a bucket, it will overflow, और थोड़ा सा धूप आएगी फिर सूख जाएगा. तो इसलिए our mind is like that little puddle of water, but people who are at that state, it's like a big ocean that it does not matter. Anything can fall into it and it just stays the same. It stays in the ocean is always calm at the bottom. ऊपर से hangama hai, all the waves and all, but the people who dive inside, they tell you that it is the most calm, beautiful place to be in. We have to just take their word from it, because we are not going inside the ocean. But anyway, that's what they're talking about. Any question, comment, or anyone wants to add anything?
When the mind and the body, the duality gives you problems when you identify yourself with the mind, with the body. But if you don't identify, is राम सुखदास जी ने बहुत अच्छा लिखा है यहाँ पर कि वो भक्ति के उससे लिखते हैं शरीर में मेरा और मेरे लिए न मानना अपने साथ मित्रता करना है शरीर में मतलब कि शरीर को जब तुम देखो तो तुम डिस्टेंस से देखो मेरे लिए मन और शरीर मेरे लिए है पर मेरा नहीं है
True.
So you're looking at the thing from a distance as a witness. So then it doesn't give you so much problem. And utna duality bhi nahi rehti.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very
this is another.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yes. So in our Hindi language, we always say mera man dukhi hai, right? Correct, that's how it is. We don't say मैं दुखी हूँ ऐसा नहीं बोलता आज मेरा मन थोड़ा उदास है, right? See how they're separated? But in the English language, say, oh, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm this, I'm that. That distinction is not there. But like from the Vedantic perspective, even language is separated. That it's... And then to become a witness, I am observing my mind. That's why I know it is udas. Think about it. So if I'm observing it, I'm different from it. Or even my intellect, I'm observing, I got a great idea today. Yesterday, my mind was not working, So that means I'm observing my intellect. That is the witness they're talking about. True. Anybody else has anything? Okay, so we can close a little bit early. That's fine because Kathopanishad is we can give a little more time over there. This connecting thing, you want to just read it, so we'll be ready for it next time.
What is the glory of such an individual? What does he become by such process? Why should he go through such a laborious inward training and self-discipline?
So here is that question that is going to be answered in the next verse. So whatever Bharat was asking, Swamiji has already done it in this book. He just made it 3 questions, but somebody can even shorten that question. So basically, like our mind always asks, मैं ये क्यों करूं? भाई इतना मेहनत करके मुझे क्या मिलेगा? So वो बताएंगे तुमको नेक्स्ट वर्स में कि तुम्हारा अगर मन प्रशांत हो गया और ये समझ गया तुमको क्या मिलेगा, कौन सा खजाना मिलने वाला है. And that is going to be very interesting. So I'll close Bhagavad Gita here if nobody has anything. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.